Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. You can tell by my shirt that I'm recording this minutes after my last video. I wanted to do a video on movies of the decade, which, yeah, hey everyone, we reached the end of a decade. I'm sure you've all figured it out by now. And everyone's doing these top 10 movies of the decade, and I think those are dumb. They're not dumb, but it's really, what's the top 10 movies of the decade? Well, it's the movie of the year for 10 years. You're not really going to learn anything new. So I thought I would change it just a little bit and talk about the 10 most underrated movies of the decade. Now, of course, this is only limited to movies I've actually seen. And some of these might not even be underrated, and maybe I just don't know any better, or maybe they're bad, and that's why people don't talk about them. But they're movies that I wish more people would see, because I think they're all great. Maybe these aren't the best movies in the world, but they're either interesting or really fun, underappreciated. Use any word you want. Just, they need more eyes on them. And so that's what this is gonna be. The number 10 spot is the animated film Rango, which everyone I know has seen Rango. But have you thought about Rango since it came out? You probably didn't. I haven't. When writing this list, I was just looking through movie releases of every movie release of the 2010s. And I saw Rango, and I was like, oh, that's right. That was a film that came out once. I remember really liking that movie. And it feels like it didn't have the same staying power as any other animated movie. And that's a shame, because it was fun. It was different. It had a weird, almost realistic style to it. An Old West setting. Or just a West setting. It had a snake with a gun for a tail. That's awesome. Good. It's a good movie. Maybe I should rewatch it. I have not rewatched it, probably since it came out. You know what? I really probably should have rewatched all of these movies before saying they're underrated. I'm going to say Rango holds up. And keep an eye on my Twitter, because that's where I'll post if it doesn't, whenever I get around to seeing that movie. Number 9, The Raid. The action masterpiece, I'll say. Now, a lot of action movie diehard fans that I am friends with, they've all seen The Raid. Can't recommend it enough. It's fantastic. But I think it didn't get the love it deserved because, much like too many movies, it's a foreign film. I believe it's Indonesian. And people don't want to read subtitles. Look, even if you're the most curmudgeonly person, and maybe you're completely illiterate, you can probably still watch The Raid. There's not a ton of talking. It's just literally the best action you will ever see. Let's use John Wick for an example, because way more people have seen John Wick, let's be honest. Take the gun combat and fighting of John Wick and just make that traditional martial arts, and you have The Raid. I mean, it's just beautiful. And this movie I have seen multiple times, and I will. It even has a sequel. The sequel's good too. It's just, if you want to get that blood pumping, I mean, this is a movie that you can watch half asleep in bed, and before the end of it, you'll want to start doing push-ups, run for laps, because you're going to want to go beat up people in apartment buildings. Don't take that out of context. Number 8 proves that I didn't proofread my list, because I just wrote Rango again. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. Not a bit. So I guess number 7, Legend of the Guardians. You may know it as that Owl series that had something like 17 trillion books, but you never read. You just always saw in the school library, and it was always missing the 4th one. I have no familiarity with the book series. I know they were wildly popular. I think the books are called Guardians of Ga'Hoole. Should clarify that. And for whatever reason, the film was called Legend of the Guardians. And then I think the subtitle was Guardians of Ga'Hoole. If you read the books, I imagine you've seen this film. If you haven't, it's just a real... I mean, it's a cool movie. It's photorealistic owls at the time. They definitely don't look bad, but they're not going to fool anyone today. And they fight. They wear armor and have weapons, and this owls that fight. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool to me. And weirdly enough, the movie was made by Zack Snyder. Didn't see that coming. Yeah, for such a popular book series, I don't know why this movie went nowhere. It has probably several movies of source material, and it just got the one movie. Just tells me it probably didn't do very well. And that's a shame. It's good. Number 6 is Let Me In, and I'm going to specify that this is not Let the Right One In, or however you pronounce it in its original language. I'm not even going to try. But this is the American remake of that film. The only reason why I'm putting this and not the original is the original didn't come out this decade. Otherwise, I'd have that instead. But I would say the remake is worth mentioning because it's good. I really have to stop saying good. I can't think of another word. But it is an American remake done right. Did it need to exist? Not really. Just watch the original. The original one is a great movie. But if for whatever reason you were dead set on, I'm not reading subtitles and I'm not... did they dub the first movie? Not important. If you want to watch, if you need to watch the American remake for whatever reason, this is one to do it with. It even adds some things that the original movie didn't, because it's based on a book. Even if you've already seen the original, I would say the remake is worth watching. It's solid. It's really all I got to say about it. Number 5, Krampus. It's a black comedy horror film about Christmas. Yeah, it's just there's not a whole lot of Christmas horror films. There's a handful, but it's not much. Krampus is easily the best of all of them. Some real good laughs, some great monster stuff. Yeah, just a solid horror movie. You could watch it, because of the horror aspect, you can kind of watch it year-round. It doesn't have to be around Christmas. It is a little better on Christmas, though. And yeah, it's a good time. Watch it with the kids. Sit in front of the fireplace. Throw on Krampus. They'll love it, I swear. 4 is a movie a couple years ago I wouldn't shut up about, which is The Lobster. So The Lobster is just... it's just weird. And I would say that's probably my top thing with movies, is I like weird or different. I mean, they still have to be good, but I like seeing things I haven't seen before, and The Lobster is unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's so dry. And, I mean, John C. Reilly's in it. Colin Farrell. They both do great. To give a quick premise to just set the mind for how weird this movie is, it's basically in a society where everyone has to be in a relationship. They don't care. It doesn't matter, gay, straight, whatever. You have to be with someone. I don't remember why. I don't remember if it's ever said. So as sort of the last bastion of hope for people is you get sent to this retreat where you try to get... it's your final chance at finding love, I guess. And if you don't, you get turned into an animal, and the main character wants to become a lobster if he fails in his pursuits of love. And yeah, the film is just him there. It's... just watch it. It's amazingly weird and uncomfortably awkward at times. 3 is maybe one of the best sci-fi movies I've seen this decade. Probably ever, to be honest. Though, really much earlier than this past decade. We're getting into an age where I am not fit to judge movies. Ex Machina, which I think more people saw this movie, but I don't know. It's just a great movie about AI. And that's really all I'm going to say. It's a character-driven piece. Basically one location. You've got 3 actors. You've got Domhnall Gleeson, Oscar Isaacs, and Alicia Vikander? I think it's Alicia. And of course, Domhnall Gleeson and Oscar Isaacs, most people would know as Poe Dameron and General Hux from Star Wars. Those films that no one has ever seen. But yeah, before they did this, they just did a super character-driven piece about robots and artificial intelligence. And it's just great. I was watching it the second time a couple weeks ago. Or not the second time, but I was watching it again a few weeks ago. And it holds up. It's a really good movie. Everyone should see it. Number 2, Nightcrawler. Probably the best thriller I've seen. Starring my, I'll say, favorite actor, Jake Gyllenhaal. That man can do no wrong. That man could play a rock and he'd probably kill it. He'd probably be great. So he's playing this awkward man who is trying to do like freelance videography for the news. Probably not selling this very well, but I mean, it's the character alone is what sells this movie to me. It's so well acted by him specifically. I should say Nightcrawler is not to be confused with Nightcrawler, the X-Men character. It's unrelated. It's a news thriller. Go watch it. And number 1, I won't spend... Well, I haven't really spent a lot of time on any of these movies. But number 1 is a movie I talked about in my last video, which is The Dead Don't Die. Again, I think no one saw this movie. It feels like a fever dream, and it's maybe the best fever dream I've ever had in my life. It's so bizarre. It's so dry. It's so unique. And it's just... there aren't words for this film. You just have to see it. You gotta see it to believe it. If I describe this movie, you go, what? That's all I got. Those are my 10, well, I guess 9, unless you want to see Rango twice. My 9 most underappreciated films of the decade. If there's any movies that you feel people didn't watch, let me know. Throw them up on in the comments, or give me a tweet or whatever. Or if I'm just wrong and a ton of people have seen these wildly successful movies, you tell me that too. I've Googled about how wrong I am several times in the last hour. I'm a dummy. I'm just doing my best.